Hello everybody, this is Juntes. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that has kind of been, on my mind lately. I've been playing quite a bit of Grim Dawn lately, and yeah, from the title, I think this is the true successor to Diablo 2. Now, obviously, we all know that the remaster is gonna come, and yeah, I'm getting pretty hyped for that by now. I think I got a Diablo 2 itch if it's gonna be remastered. I'm probably gonna have to get serious about it if it does get remastered. But for now, I truly think that Grim Dawn is the successor that I have been looking for years. I have tried so many RPGs as well. I can just mention Van Helsing. So I played the original up to the end game. So I was farming like gear at that point only. Had a character leveled that was like a melee build or something. Then I also played like 100-ish hour of Torchlight 2 to the point where I was again at the end game and completed all the next game plus as that is in the game. But yeah, also played obviously Diablo 3 for about, I don't even know if it's like 500-600 hours. Obviously Diablo 3 had to be played a lot, but it was mostly just before the first expansion. I can't remember it now. Seriously, I can't even remember the name of the expansion. That's how unforgettable it really has been since but also I'm into trading, and they completely removed trading and all those sort of options, so that's maybe also why I didn't quite enjoy Diablo 3 once the expansion came out. But yeah, also played Path of Exile obviously for like 50 hours something. And this is also gonna be, I talk about it a bit more, but that is basically the RPGs that I have played besides Diablo 2, which I probably clocked in at least, I would say maybe 1,000 hours, maybe 1,015, I don't know really, but it's definitely over 1,000 hours of Diablo 2, I'm pretty sure. So to find a game that I actually think can get close to it, or at least replace it, I'm pretty happy about that. So the video is just gonna be me talking about my experience with Grim Dawn so far, and just kind of why I think this game is the successor that I have been looking for compared to all the other games that I have tried and played for quite a while, I would say. So in order to explain why I think Grim Dawn is actually a very good successor to Diablo 2, I should perhaps just start out by saying that I'm a bit of a casual player, and I think I kind of just want to talk about why I think this these other really good RPGs, none of them are bad in any way, are just not better than this one. Because I think if you round down what each of them does well, or bad, you can kind of get an idea for how Grim Dawn stacks up. So I think I kind of just want to talk briefly about Torchlight 2. I think that's kind of like an old RPG by now, at least in today's a game comes out every week, and I think Torchlight 2 is like back from 2011 or something, 12 maybe. Anywho, Torchlight 2 has this cartoony graphics, and you can kind of mod the game how you like, and you can cheat in the game, and there's really no depth. There's a little bit of depth to the builds, but it's easy to kind of get cookie cutters. The skills works exactly like Grim Dawn, just a little more easy. If you played if you played World of Warcraft or something like that, you already know the talent trees, and it's sort of like the old talent trees from World of Warcraft, back in vanilla or whatever. So it's kind of like easy enough to understand. So Torchlight 2 is very casual RPG, and that is probably why I ended up liking it. I am definitely a bit of a casual player, but there's also a point where the casual aspect of a game just kind of gets bored, and you kind of end up just you're lacking depth. Like there's just something about it that I just don't really like. So I ended up just thinking Torchlight 2 was overall a lot of fun, a very good experience, and honestly I think it cost like $20, and you can probably find it on Steam sales for maybe $10 or even $5 nowadays easily. So for the value of money, I would say it's probably the best one that I have bought so far, just because again I did buy it full price $20 back then, but I just thought it was really great for the money given after all, and that is also an important aspect of. So like if you're a casual player and you kind of just want to have fun in an RPG, you know, you don't want to have to think too much, and like you don't have to Google around for builds and learn about you know, mechanics and all those sort of things. Total 2 is very good for that. You basically just Google a guide and you follow that one, and like the questing and all those sort of things and exploring in the game is easy enough. Yeah, it's just very overall a polished experience, and that is also why I kind of would like to see, you know, Torchlight 3 being a thing, but I don't think it's ever going to be happening. Just again because Runic Games seems to be doing other types of games nowadays, which is fine. They can't keep milking the cow, I suppose. But yeah, let's talk about a game that's maybe not that popular, Van Helsing. So I do believe there's come out another game since then. Definitely didn't want to try it because I'm not quite sure why I didn't like Van Helsing much. I feel like it reminds me a lot of Grim Dawn, but just more boring, and yeah, overall just not as fun. I felt like the gameplay was a little too wooden for me as well, you know. Diablo 3, my god, if we could just get games that were as fluid, fast moving, you know, optimized, all those sort of things as you know, Blizzard games, I would just like that's the thing about, you know, playing World of Warcraft, for instance, in 2017. I was playing a bit of yeah, Guild Wars 2 just for a while. Nothing serious, we're just trying out the game pretty much, but it just feels sluggish, you know. The controls are bad, it feels laggy, you know, not in frames per second laggy, but there's just something, it feels so annoying to, you know, play the game. Man, I found 3 elite packs now, that's a lot. Yeah, that was fun. Anywho, it just feels laggy, Van Helsing, and it feels more laggy than even Path of Exile or, you know, Grim Dawn, which is already kind of wooden. I wouldn't say this is a very fluid game, at least not compared to Diablo 3 or maybe even Diablo 2, which I still think is quite good actually. Diablo 2 is not that sluggish to play. A few builds can feel a little bit slow, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad by any means compared to the age of the game itself. But anywho, yeah, Van Helsing, it also kinda, yeah, it's a little more depth than Torchlight 2, but it's not a lot. The builds can be a little bit hard to understand, and there are some mechanics to them. I should probably also talk a little bit about stats in the game, because there's like, oh, I hate that. So I suppose every RPG has to have, you know, crazy amount of stats. Like when you let's just take this one item that I looted now, and I can kinda, you know, give you an example. I mean, just looking at this one, Rimefrost Chamber and Gauntlets of the Chilling. Already the name itself is like, oh yeah, cold damage, frost burn damage, physic, Aether resistance, 15% chance. Like all these stats here, none of that exists in Diablo 3, which I kinda like. Van Helsing had it, Torchlight 2 had it, Path of Exile has it, yeah, Grim Dawn has it. These sort of gimmicky filler stats that are just, you know, a headache to kinda understand. Obviously, now that I played the games for a while, I kinda get them, I understand them, exactly what they do, whatever. But yeah, I like simplified stats, so there isn't that much clutter. Diablo 3 has a perfect balance of that, but again, that's just from, you know, casual point of view. Maybe I'm not as hardcore as other players, but I just like simplified stats. Like, take an instant for these gloves here. Attack speed, but then in Grim Dawn there's also cast speed. Like, why can't those two stats just be merged? Like, what's the point in, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit too casual minded for that. But like, that's a good example of, you know, depth in the game. They make these sort of generic filler things that I don't really like. Anywho, back to Van Helsing. I also think that Van Helsing was overall boring. I'm not really sure why, but I just felt like the setting and yeah, I don't know if the music was boring as well, and the story was okay. It had actually like few cool quests, That's actually a thing I could mention really fast in Grim Dawn, now that I played it through, yeah, up to Ultimate. Started Ultimate just slowly now or so, but the questing is overall pretty dull in Grim Dawn. Like, the quests are, you know, you go to a quest zone and then you get like 3 quests, and some of them are side quests which you don't have to do at all to kind of see the main story. However, it's a kind of fun where Grim Dawn, you know, farming mobs and whatnot, it's really slow experience, but just questing gives you levels a lot faster. So that's kind of like a nice thing to now incentivize you to do side quests and explore the story and whatnot. But yeah, the problem with RPG is that once you do the first normal difficulty, whatever it's called, then you kind of seen the questing experience fully. So yeah, I think that's just kind of like the problem. Oh my god, yeah, Torchlight 2, you know, you go through the mode, was it 5 or 4 times before you are done doing the same quest 4 or 5 times on the same character. Was a bit dull compared to the standard 3 times. So yeah, but yeah, I don't really think the questing experience has been really good in any RPGs lately. Correct me wrong in the comments if you feel like another game had really good questing experience, but yeah, I don't really think that's the case. So now that I talked about, you know, Van Helsing, Torchlight, some Diablo 3 stuff, I think I just kind of want to move on to, you know, the game everyone is hyped for and has been hyped for 2 years. Everyone is playing it, Path of Exile. I want to like Path of Exile. You know, I'm the kind of player that flocks to a game if it's popular. That's probably also why I ended up playing, you know, World of Warcraft and still playing it since vanilla. There's just something about playing a game with a large community. You know, you have all these resources. Like, that's a good example of resources. You can just barely find people even playing online for Grim Dawn. You can just Google just enough information to do quests you're stuck on. You can find just enough content on YouTube to help out on builds, and there's just enough people on the forums, you know, to get a discussion going on X is better than C and whatnot. That is not the case for Path of Exile. If you need resources on Path of Exile, yeah, you can find it. I'm pretty sure there's never gonna be, you know, a point where you are gonna be stuck. And that is kind of the same thing for Diablo 3, or at least it, I don't know, was. Yeah, I think the community is maybe a bit less in Diablo 3 nowadays compared to, say, a year ago or even 2 years ago. But anywho, the community, yeah, that's a problem in these small games, you know, Steam games and whatnot, indie games, whatever. There's not a lot of information out there, and I'm always the sort of player that, you know, likes min-maxing, just kind of exploring the, you know, the best optimal way to do a quest, or like, that's also another thing. In Grim Dawn we have choice quests. They don't really alter the way you see the story that much, but still it's nice to kind of, you know, have that option of googling stuff, so you kind of know what you're doing, whatever. But let's move on to, you know, straight on Path of Exile. I'll just go here with a question: why did I not like Path of Exile? I can mention a few things. You know, the stuff where you have links and gems in Path of Exile. I found that completely infuriating when I was playing it. I was playing around with like a totem build and stuff back then. I don't know if that's relevant anymore, but I could just never find like gear with the links and the gems that I had, and that was just so annoying. So like, the gear you pick up, it can maybe be okay, but like then there's an added depth to the gear, and the gems themselves alters completely the build, the way you play it. Like, I feel like there was just too many depths on gear. There was just too much hardcore stuff in that one. And then obviously also I have to mention the skill tree. Torchlight 2 was maybe a little too easy. Grim Dawn was also okay, but Path of Exile was just way too much. However, Grim Dawn also has a tree called Devotion. And when I was first looking at it, you know, before I even bought the game, I was thinking, oh god, this is just a Path of Exile clone, this fucking tree. What are they doing? but actually it's not as bad. You get devotion points by doing shrines. Actually, I'm nearby a shrine here. You can see a shrine here on the map here. This restored shrine. Already took this one. But yeah, this is basically what you do. You do these shrines here, which are easy to get when you're out doing normal quests and whatnot. Then you get, you know, devotion points, and you spend those devotion points. And yeah, it's a bit quirky. Like, for instance, one example, you need to unlock constellations, and you can only do that by, you know, getting constellation or affinity points and stuff like that. Yeah, there is some depth to it, and it's a little bit hard to explain just in one video here, but overall it's nothing compared to Path of Exile skill tree. And then of course we can just take the skill tree themselves. I mean, if you played World of Warcraft, Vanilla, Burning Crusade, whatever, you already know this stuff. So you need to take points to get to, you know, the next row of abilities that you can take. For instance, in my case, I took enough points to fill out all 50 points down here at the Arcanist tree. And then I have only taken up to like soon 20 points in Nightblade, which means I, for instance, cannot take Blade Trap, which requires 5 additional points in the Nightblade tree. That's it. There's not even any synergies or anything in the game. There's really nothing real depth to it. It's very easy to understand. Anyone can understand the skill tree really fast if they played similar games. Yeah, I could also mention another thing. There are no, what can you say, death penalties in Grim Dawn. The only death penalty there really is, yeah, if you got to place, you know, your town portal, you have to run back. That's about it. And I like that. I just like, you know, playing aggressive, stupid, careless sometimes. Like Grim Dawn, my god, you're gonna die in Grim Dawn. At least if you're playing, you know, for the first time, untwinked and whatnot. Even though I am now, you know, at the same level, or at least, you know, started gearing, I can actually just show a bit of gear. I actually had a very nice experience where one dude gave a lot of gear to me, and we were playing multiplayer, and he gave, you know, this crown here, and yeah, all sorts of nice items for me. I still haven't quite used this one. So the Invokers, this is actually an in-game item for my set. I don't think it's the best one that I can get, but yeah, he gave away some pretty nice stuff, so I'm actually running around with some okay gear for my level. But yeah, there's not much depth to dying and whatnot, and I like that, the casual aspect of it. I could also mention this area, Cronies hideout, is actually pretty high level, and that's kind of like the fun thing with Grim Dawn. Some areas are really low level, and then others jumps like 5-10 levels all of a sudden. Oh my god, I nearly killed myself because I didn't switch to the bars. I don't know what I was doing there. Anywho, you saw the health. 2 mobs easily killed me. Okay, let's just test this one out. Oh yeah, and it died. But yeah, I could mention just really fast, you need resistance in this game. It definitely your ultimate. I have to start capping resistance as well. But anyways, now I talked about Path of Exile, the skill tree, you know, the gear with the link and gem systems and all those sort of things that I just did not like. Overall, again, I'm a casual player. I have to admit that. Another thing is also, again, I just thought that Path of Exile just did not really compare to, you know, the game that I want to spend a lot of time on. I just did not think about this game as any sort of a possible experience for me to see myself playing for a long time. I think Grim Dawn has, you know, drawn me in much better, because overall the entertainment of this game is really good for me. I'm not sure why, but I just really think that this game is a lot of fun, and that's like the most important part of the game after all. If you find the game to be fun, that's really all you really need. That's at least my point of view of it. Yeah, I really just think that there is a really good possibility for this game to maybe even get a sequel, cause again, it's a small developer, and I should probably also mention how poorly this game runs. It's definitely a bit laggy, even though I have a, you know, a system that can easily play these sort of games. It's not exactly the best frame rates, and there are still a few bugs here and there, I at least encountered a few, but there is you know, a playthrough the entire game, and there's not been any game-breaking bugs. And I also believe I haven't had any crashes except for 2. Yeah, I think the game has crashed twice for me, but that's about it. Again, indie games and all those sort of things, everyone knows about that. I've also been playing a bit of PlayerUnknown's Battleground lately, and even though that game is so popular, I still find a lot of bugs, and yeah, the game runs really poorly. But yeah, it's still not also fully released, so that's maybe fair enough. But yeah, by the way, I'll probably end up making a video on that game, because I'm usually not a FPS player, but I really like that game. It's fun. But yeah, I think overall, if I had to say anything from, you know, Path of Exile vs Grim Dawn, I'm just not hardcore enough to play you know, Path of Exile. I like casual aspects of a game such as Grim Dawn, which again turns out to me also just enjoying the game more and liking it and finding it more fun. So overall, this game is just a lot of fun, and that is why I think it's a great successor to Diablo 2. I don't think I want to really mention anything more than that. I had tried, you know, 4 or 5 games of these genres now. Overall, I just didn't really like any one of them enough to, you know, play beyond 100 hours or 50 hours, whatever. Actually, I think I only played Van Helsing for like 40 or something, maybe 50 hours max. So yeah. Another thing I should also mention really fast is the build variations in the game. There is a lot of build variations for such a simple game in this you know, RPG. Even though the skill trees and devotion skill trees and whatnot are pretty simple, we end up maybe picking the same things. But I still think like there's a lot of depth to customize builds and make them different. Like just for one instance, this game doesn't really have a straight on sorceress build, but I knew I wanted to make a sorceress range build on the first character that I made. But the Arcanist can go with both, yeah, what's it called? This one, the Ray build. It can also go with the Torsen Sky Shard. It can also use Devastation, a more defensive approach for like more buffs and all those sort of things. So like just in the Arcanist tree alone, there are at least 4 or 5 actual builds, you know, not just gimmicky builds, but actual builds. Not really sure how that is for the other trees in general, but I feel like there's a lot of build potential in this game. Sort of like, you know, in Diablo 2 where you can mix elements. This is kind of like the same concept where you take, you know, Arcanist and Nightblade in my case, mix those 2 talent trees together, and yeah, just kind of support them, get, you know, a synergy behind them in some way. I use Nightblade tree for kind of defensive things and whatnot. So yeah, I really think, again, also as a player that likes to build builds and maybe not even play them, I kind of just like toying around with builds and kind of gearing them up and whatnot. I think this game also has a lot of possibility for that sort of playstyle, which I am definitely a fan of in Diablo 2, which you can probably see on the channel why I tend to just kind of be focused on endgame PvM. But yeah, I don't think I want to kind of make the video any longer than this. Maybe a bit, you know, long video regardless, but hope it was fun enough also just to kind of see some gameplay. I should also mention again that this area is actually a pretty popular one to farm gear in. Oh, and I actually got a loot. I should also mention again Grim Dawn. Oh my god, the filler loot. Do you see this one? I killed 3 mobs, 1 elite pack and was it 2 other together with it, and I get all this crap. Yeah, I even get a level 12 loot. Why is a level 12 loot dropping in elite mode from a level 60 or 70? Yeah, there's a lot of loot in this game and you kind of get cluttered really fast and you have to go to the town to sell a lot. At least early on, because pretty fast you're only going to be focused on, you know, in this case a rare loot or legendary loot. I could also mention really fast for Grim Dawn, they have all these materials, so every single material I just pick up. So these are materials, in my case, if I can perhaps make this one into something really high-end, I think partial component, yeah, so if I can upgrade this 3 times, I can actually use the riftstone on the end game gear setup that I want to enchant my gear with, since you use these materials to either craft with or enchant your gear with. I can also mention really fast that there's a lot of consumables in the game, some really good ones and whatnot. Crafting materials, keys to unlock special areas, yeah, just more materials, yeah, overall, a lot of set items in the game as well. Like there's almost too many sets. I could perhaps just really fast, yeah, that could actually be a fun thing to show. I can just quickly go to the stash at the end of the video here to show you how much loot that I have actually gotten from the game just by playing to Ultimate, cause god, that drops so much loot. So yeah, up here is my stash in the start town. We have this one stash here, which is my personal one, and then we go to item transfer, and voila, this is all the loot that I have just gotten from 65 levels or so. Actually no, because I ended up having to delete quite a few. Probably sold like, I don't know, 20 items already. It's ridiculous how much loot you get. And yeah, some of the loot is probably just gonna be vendored eventually, but I like to at least keep some of these low level items in case I'm gonna re-level a character, because I'm probably gonna make a blade warder next up or some sort of melee build, since everyone seems to be using blade warder or melee builds in this game anyways. I don't really think ranged is that popular. But yeah, thank you for watching this one. Again, I would love to know what sort of RPGs do you find, the successor of Diablo 2, what RPGs or similar games do you like compared to Diablo 2? Are you maybe just a fan of Diablo 3? Do you think that Diablo 3 with its perfect smooth gameplay and fast-paced gameplay, all those epic Blizzard polish, because again I talked about that in the video again, where I wish every game had polish like Diablo 3 or Blizzard games. Feel free to comment about all those sort of topics. I would love to know about that. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. So yeah, thank you for watching and have a good one.